I really wasn't joking, guys, when I said. I have actually said that many times throughout all those years that T-50-2 was my #1 favorite tank in this game. Like #1 favorite. There was nothing better than T-50-2 for me before they decided to remove it, before they decided to replace this tank with MT-25. I'm really happy that we were able to get it back as a reward vehicle for playing this game for so long time. I think we received it for playing this game for at least 5 years, or was that 6 years? I remember not every single reward tier received this as a gift tank, but it is a mere shadow of what it used to be back in the days. Mainly because we have received so many new vehicles, physics, all the balancing, all the nations, all the other light tanks and so on. Back in the days, our highest light tank or our top tier light tanks were tier 5 light tanks, and this is why tier 5 light tanks were able to face tier 10 vehicles sometimes. Yes, T-50-2 had actually +-5 matchmaking. So I can say I am swimming in butter, I am swimming in milk in this kind of matchmaking, where I have to face only one tier 7 vehicle. Now, why T-50-2 was my #1 favorite tank in this game 6 years ago? Well, for the start, it had the best possible mobility. It was literally like glued to the ground. We didn't have physics, as you can see. It was really like glued to the ground. You were able to circle heavy tanks to death easily, medium tanks, and maybe even some light tanks. You were able to circle light tanks as well with T-50-2. But the main reason why it was my favorite tank, it was #1. The most efficient artillery, counter-artillery nightmare killer in this game, as you were able to see from the battle on the background. And I had countless, hundreds of battles like this. We were literally the most devastating force when we platooned up together with 3 different T-50-2s. No artillery was able to survive that battle. Now, we didn't rush, as you saw at the start of the battle, we didn't rush in right off the bat. At first, our main strategy was that at first we were doing some semi-active scouting. We didn't want to put us into too big of a risk, because usually we had so many suicide scouts in the game who did all the spotting at the start of the battle, and after they died they said, oh, this team sucks so badly. I spotted all those vehicles but I didn't see any shots. Well, you didn't see any shots because enemy tanks were repositioning, so that means or were taking their first positions, which means your guys, allies, were taking their first positions as well. So at first we tried to spot all the enemy tanks to see where they are going and so on, and we waited roughly 2 minutes. Because usually it takes like up to 2 minutes for all the enemy vehicles to get into their first positions, to leave the base pretty much. And what that leaves us were defenseless artilleries. T-50-2, as it was such a small vehicle with superb mobility. It was glued to the ground, so wiggling, turning left to the right, dodging shots was extremely easy. Was a really hard tank to hit. So we wiggled ourselves, all the T-50-2s behind enemy lines, and artilleries, poof, dead. No arty support, all the heavy tanks, medium tanks that we passed before. Nice shot, by the way. Got distracted. Our guys were able to push in. Enemy team didn't have artillery anymore. GG. We literally won 80 to 85% of the battles with the full T-50-2 platoons. And you know what, guys? I might even go that far saying this was the most fun I have had in this game throughout all those years. After playing this game for 7+ years. So you can only imagine how sad, I wasn't like really sad, but how kinda sad, like game-wise, I was when they decided to remove the T-50-2. At first I was like, okay, we are going to receive MT-25, which is also small, which is, well, looks like kind of the same vehicle, but oh boy, I was so wrong. It wasn't the same vehicle, it wasn't even close to the level of T-50-2. T-50-2's awesomeness. Now, I am not going to say that T-50-2 was my #1 favorite tank in this game because of how efficient it was killing artilleries. Believe it guys, artilleries, even though we had so many more artilleries per battle, were not such a big issue back in the days. The bigger issue was actually facing like +-5 matchmaking with T-50-2 or with any other vehicle. Okay, heavy tanks for example were not like IES. Well, IES was actually facing tier 10s, so IES had +-3 matchmaking, but tier 6 vehicles very rarely were facing tier 10s, but +-3 matchmaking was kinda common. So I didn't love it because of the artillery. I loved the distraction factor, I loved the fun factor. It was literally the funniest tank to play with. All the distraction was just so hilarious. Enemy frontline tanks were fighting with our frontline tanks, so you wiggle yourself through the enemy frontline and suddenly you see all their guns are aiming at me. At the same time they're getting wrecked by my frontline dudes. So I don't know why, I don't know how they didn't see that my role was to purely distract you guys. And while I was already behind the enemy lines, why the hell not let's take out enemy artilleries as well. Defenseless, usually defenseless artilleries, but of course before we had to look at the matchmaking to see how many camping potential campers could be over there. So we were looking for those potential campers, we tried to spot them and so on. A lot of thinking and strategy went into it actually. We didn't simply rush in, we didn't simply suicide scout with the platooned up T-50-2s. We tried to be as efficient as possible because light tanks were not the biggest damage dealers, especially in +-5 matchmaking, not the biggest damage dealers at all, and so we had to be creative. We had to look out for different ways to be useful, and this was the best way to be useful. And it was actually hilarious. While, let's say, there were 3 artilleries on the enemy side, while they were stacked together, and while I was in the middle of all those 3 artilleries, the amount of times their own tanks, tank destroyers, and actually other artilleries, same friendly artilleries, killed each other. Wow, I can say it happened 100+ times for sure, because I played hundreds and hundreds of battles with this tank. Let's say enemy team had like 3 artilleries, I was able to get behind enemy lines, I was able to get in the middle of those 3 artilleries. It was especially awesome when they were stacked together and you see all the shells flying from the enemy defenders trying to hit me, but they actually did hit their own artilleries and they got him killed. I have so many memories with this tank, with this little bugger over here. And it actually released quite a shitstorm in the chat as well after every single team kill. But this is what this tank was made to do. It was made to bring smile to my face at least. And I have to say, I'm actually kinda happy I was able to play with it one more time. Maybe one final time. So I wanted to take the maximum out of it. Enemy T-50-2 has been destroyed, so now I am going to wait like 30 more seconds and then I am going to charge through the middle and I'm going to get all the artilleries. Like, exactly the same plan. At first, do not suicide scout. I tried to do some spotting. I tried to spot the enemy heavy tanks. As you saw, I went to the middle. By the way, this is our old Fisherman's Bay. Who remembers? Well, they remember. Then that means you have played this game before, World of Tanks 1.0. And I was able to see many heavy tanks. I was able to spot many heavy tanks who were going into the city. So waiting a couple more minutes to let the enemy team to get into their positions, enemy tanks to get into their positions. And now it is like taking candy from a kid. M41 has been spotted. SU-8 has been spotted as well. I pinged a couple times on the minimap. Usually I actually was writing in the chat as well, asking some help from my artist. And you see the amount of shells flying around me, enemy arty trying to kill me. But no, nothing like this is going to happen. Come on, gun, please start working. Pretty derpy on the move accuracy. And yep, I think I just fired through the vehicle. Finally, I was able to get his ass. One more artillery left to kill, and we didn't have Dimitri's medal, we didn't have Bascuici's medal back in the days, but this would have been a... come on, out aim. But this would have been a Dimitri's medal for killing all the 3 enemy artilleries in one battle. So, like taking candy from a kid, it worked almost every single time. As I said, I think we had around 80 to 85% win ratio. And over here I am going to trick that M4. I was going to wait until I'm not spotted anymore. When M4 lost his spotting, that means I wasn't spotted anymore as well. And surprise, I tricked you, buddy. And I am able to take that M4 out as well. So now there are only 3 more vehicles left to kill. ISU-152, by the way. At first had BL-10 gun, so in this battle this ISU-152 is using a BL-10 gun with 750 alpha damage and with what was it, 270 millimeters, 78 millimeters of penetration, like let's say 270 plus millimeters of penetration, something like that. And you are going to see the old camo values as well. This guy is actually able to outspot me and is actually able to stay hidden while turning his hull. Check this out, guys. I'm looking for that ISU and boom! Destroyed. Well done. And I wasn't able to get my Top Gun 2 battles in a row, because in my previous battle you saw on the background I also had 5 kills and I wasn't able to pick up kill number 6. But I was able to destroy many artilleries at least in both of those battles. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this was T-50-2 7 years ago. It was my #1 favorite tank in this game. At the moment, it is taken by FE215B, because this is my feel-good tank, but it is still deep in my heart, deep in my World of Tanks heart, not in my real heart. So going over specs really quickly, what it had to offer: 560 hit points, 550 horsepower engine, with 72 km/h top speed, 46 tank traverse speed, and no armor whatsoever. But it was actually able to bounce something, because it is just because of the shape. It was so not thick. How do you call it? Thin, I think. It was such a not thick vehicle, it was thin vehicle, especially if you look at it from the front. If you look at it from the front, it was really hard tank to hit, so it actually had some survivability thanks to that. And some hidden survivability. Rate of fire 24 rounds per minute, but it didn't have the best alpha damage. Average alpha damage I think 80, something like that. View range for 20 meters, and the signal range, well, it doesn't matter. So those were all the specs we were able to see as well. Yeah, it was enjoyable to play with it one more time. I don't know if the classic server is ever coming back. Maybe we are never ever able to play with the T-50-2 in those kind of conditions. I wanted to bring you some high tier gameplay action as well, with 6 or 7 top tier artilleries in one battle on the enemy side. Dream battles, dream matchmaking for T-50-2, but in every single battle, server was laggy as hell, and my button clicks reacted like 1 or 1.5 seconds later. Once again, kind of frustrating experience. Awesome idea, I really like the idea, but please Wargaming, fix your freaking servers if you do something like this ever again. But please too, I enjoyed it a lot. So it was T-50-2. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know your experience from the past with this vehicle. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as always. If you did, click the thumbs up button. And if you didn't, click the thumbs down button. That is it. I catch you next time with something else. Stay awesome, take care, and bye.